My name is Melanie Cheetah. I'm the Executive Director for the Southeast Minnesota chapter of the American Red Cross, and I've been in my position for 25 years. As an Executive Director, my job is to oversee the activities of the chapter, as well as ensure that we are following all the policies and procedures of the American National Red Cross, since we are one chapter in a larger organization. I work very closely with volunteers who serve in leadership positions such as board members and community volunteer leaders. I also work with some of the volunteers who are involved in our direct service deliveries. So the American Red Cross is a local, national, and international organization. So as an executive director of a local chapter, my job is to make sure that our services are consistent with the national policies and procedures, and to work closely with volunteers who serve in a leadership capacity within the organization. So board members, community volunteer leaders, and others who help direct our local activities. I also get a chance to work with volunteers who are doing that direct service delivery, helping at bloodmobiles, helping with our fire and other types of responses, assisting with classes or teaching workshops. Those volunteers are the direct service volunteers, and I get to work with them as well as oversee the programs in our local area to make sure that we're meeting the needs for people who are looking for Red Cross programs and services. Two years ago, we had an experience where one of our volunteers came into the office on a Saturday when there's not normally any people around, but that particular day there was a CPR class going on. And he came in to do a little project but started to feel ill. As it turned out, he collapsed. He had a heart attack. But because there was a class in the building, there were people there who saw what happened and they were able to respond. They did CPR on him. They used a defibrillator to shock his heart. They called 911, of course, and he was transported in an ambulance to the hospital. He's alive today because those people were in that building at the same time as he was, and they took action when he needed help. Had he been there all by himself, he would have died. But he had an opportunity to live because they took action. And so a year later, we had an opportunity to present to the two people who led the response. The teacher and one of the students in the class were the primary responders to his heart attack. We were able to present them with the nation's highest award that the Red Cross gives. It's called the Certificate of Merit. It's signed by the President of the United States, and it's only given out to a dozen or more people a year for demonstrating that commitment to save someone's life. And the volunteer who collapsed presented those certificates to these two people who saved his life. It was an amazing experience to witness and one of the most memorable things I will ever experience in my life. Many people recognize that the American Red Cross is involved in disaster relief when we have tornadoes or floods or hurricanes. In my years with the Red Cross, I've had an opportunity to respond to many different types of disasters. One of the most memorable is a flood. Many people recognize that the American Red Cross is involved in disaster relief when we have tornadoes or floods or hurricanes. In my years with the Red Cross, I've had an opportunity to respond to many different types of disasters. One of the most memorable is a flood that occurred in 2007 that affected much of the Winona community as well as surrounding communities throughout southeast Minnesota. There were people whose lives were lost during that event, and there were many hundreds of people who lost their homes. When the Red Cross responds to a disaster, we're there to help make sure that people have a place to stay, that they have clothing and shoes and food, the basics, the basic immediate needs. But we also try to provide emotional support and help them through the recovery process. And there are people whose faces I still remember. I can't tell you their names or specifically where they lived, but I can see their faces, and I remember how they felt when the Red Cross showed up at their house, and we were there to help them through that difficult experience. It is one of the most rewarding experiences I've ever had.